Hey everybody, welcome back. We are doing Ezra, the prophet, at a 420 Bible study and Torah tour. I'm Charlie. If you didn't get that yet, hopefully you've seen some of the other videos and you're actually reading your Torah every day. Oh, what's that? That's the actual book that Jesus reads from. And the Tanakh, that's this one. Because Jesus is Jewish, as I found out. And if he's Jewish, what does he teach? Judaism. And so as Jesus is our high priest, he brings the daily offerings for his sins and for the sins of the people. And then in Hebrews it says, a body you've prepared for me. And then it also says in Luke, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is, or Mark, but hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And that is the correct answer, that they're all Jewish. So what do Jewish people do? They have special food, a sacred offering. This is the OG school of God's ancient wisdom. The way, Taoism, yeah. The way to enlightenment, Buddhism, yeah, mispronounced. I think it's called Buddhism. Can you believe that the flower is the menorah? I can. Let's breathe the tree of life and burn the bush and hang out with Moses. So what's really interesting about reading all of these words and names and over, it's like going to practice. You just know your coach's verbs. He starts to say a sentence, you're like, oh, I got that play. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just wrote that thing down. And then the next word is what you wrote. And you're like, oh, I'm writing and completing your thoughts. And that's what best friends do. They finish each other's sentences, right? So I got a life sentence. I went before the court and I said, I'm guilty, Hashem. I've done all this. I didn't even know who Hashem was, but I went before the God's court and I said, I'm guilty. And he said, thanks for saying you're guilty. You're free to go. Just don't do any of the stuff you used to do. And he gave me a life sentence. That's a good thing. So with that, we're rebuilding the temple in Ezra 3. We've learned that the daily burnt offerings and the daily bread is the prescription for life, prescribed each day by God. And it's presented to God. And then we get to the bottom verse, it was verse 10. The builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, and the priests in their vestments and their trumpets and the Levites, the sons of Asaph, with their symbols, by the way, and it's S, because the whole thing is a symbol and a sign, and it's not necessarily, it's audio, but it's not necessarily external. So it says, with praise and thanksgiving they sang to the Lord, he is good, his love toward Israel endures forever. And I read that as we finished the last video, and I was like, oh my goodness, I just read Psalm 136 this morning. Excuse me. And literally it says, give thanks to him who spread, who made the sun, the moon, to him, and brought a mighty to him, and brought, give thanks. Now I didn't go into the poem necessarily, or the psalm, but it says, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. Give thanks to the God of gods. Oh my goodness, here it is in Psalm 136. Okay, this actually ends the conversation. If Christians believe there's three in one, that means there's three. Which one would you pick? I'd pick Hashem, the one in the middle. And at that point, give thanks to the God of gods, which is not the Son, it is the Father. Baruch Hashem. So, as all the people are gathering around, let's listen at the 420 mark to hear how they rebuild the temple. And all the people gave a great shout and praise to Hashem, because the foundation of the Lord was laid. But many of the older priests and Levites and family heads who had seen the former temple wept aloud when they saw the foundation of this temple being laid, while many others shouted for joy. So this new temple that they're building, they're divided. They remember the old. It was greater than this. And now they're comparing the two, and they're not even into the New Testament, where the new temple comes in, and that's the test. Can you bring the fragrant offerings from the old into the new temple built by Hashem, God of Israel, the body? Yes. So, no one could distinguish the sound of shouts of joy from the sound of weeping. And that is my point from earlier, and I didn't even read this. But it's interesting. It says, no one could distinguish the sound of joy from weeping. At that point, they're both smoking, because it's fragrant repenting and it's praising and Hashem. So there's only one scent. There's only one aroma. I don't want to give away too much, but when it says you're going to be thrown into the burn of sulfur, the burning of fire, I really think it's that one aroma that God likes, because you've been doing all the other aromas and all the other liquids and all the other breads for the entire lifetime on earth. As a foreigner, you didn't realize that you were a foreigner on earth. You thought, oh, I'm just living on earth. I'm born of earth. I'm like, no. Here's a concept for you. We started in heaven. That's where the concept starts, the light. Then Adam and Eve didn't obey. Or they took the jet pilot ride out of the universe and they had car trouble or engine trouble and they crash landed on Earth and they tried to call home and Dad's like, where are you? He's like, well, wait, you're not even at home? Well, I'm not coming to get you. Here, I'll write you a story over time and you guys can figure it out. I'm like, what? So with that, we're trying to rebuild the temple, and all the people gave shouts of praise to the Lord because the foundation had been laid, which is, they laid branches before Jesus when he came on a donkey, and the oil of joy, and burnt offerings prescribed in sacrifices. All of it is to the aroma of the satisfying, pleasing food offerings and the way we thank God for the new air of life. So with that, let's finish it out. It says, no one could distinguish the sound of shouts of joy from the sound of weeping because the people had made so much noise, and the sound was heard far away. Interesting that the sound is heard, or the smell is heard even farther. Oh, so when you smell food, or do you hear food? So we are practicing the burnt offerings, the daily bread offerings, an aroma that is satisfying, pleasing, and food to Hashem in the temple that he built. Still wandering, but with Moses, and getting help from Ezra and Nehemiah, and learning how to rebuild the altar of incense and the temple of God. Baruch Hashem for QnA, the aroma of the tree of life.